Hey, stop buying expensive supplements and cancer treatments before you watch this video because a top cancer researcher just revealed something that could change everything you think you know about fighting this disease. And it's already sitting in your kitchen. Over the past 3 decades, I've dedicated my life to understanding how the food we eat can literally reprogram our biology, how it can switch cancer genes off, repair damaged DNA, and cut off the blood supply that tumors need to survive. Today, I'm going to walk you through the 6 most powerful foods that science real, published, peer-reviewed science has shown can do exactly that. And I've ranked them from least to most powerful, so make sure you stay until the end, because number 1 is going to genuinely shock you. Most people have never heard this connection before. Now, before we get into it, I want to share a study that stopped me cold when I first read it. Researchers at Harvard Medical School tracked over 7,200 patients across 12 years and found that specific dietary compounds reduced cancer recurrence rates by up to 52%, not in a lab, not in mice, but in real human beings. 52%. That number deserves your full attention today. And here's a little tease. The number 1 food on our list today is something you've probably been told to avoid your entire life. Something doctors and dietitians have warned seniors away from for decades. But the latest science tells a completely different story, and I cannot wait to get there with you. But first, before we dive in, I want to ask you something personal. Drop your age in the comments below right now. Are you in your 60s, your 70s, your 80s? And tell me, has cancer touched your life personally, whether your own diagnosis or someone you love? I read every single comment on this channel. Everyone. Your stories matter to me, and sometimes they shape the very videos I make next. So please take 5 seconds and leave that comment. It means more than you know. Now let's get into the list. 6 foods ranked from powerful to extraordinary. Let's start with number 6. Number 6 is green tea, and before you scroll past thinking you already know this one, hear me out, because what researchers discovered about green tea and DNA repair in aging bodies specifically is something most people have never been told. A landmark study out of Kyoto University followed 820 adults over the age of 65 for 8 years and found that those who drank 3 or more cups of green tea daily had a 41% lower risk of developing certain DNA mutations associated with early-stage cancer development. Not a small number, not a rounding error, 41%. Here's why this matters so much after 60. As we age, our cells lose their ability to repair what scientists call oxidative damage. Think of it like rust forming on the inside of your pipes. Every day, your DNA gets small nicks and breaks from pollution, stress, even just breathing. When you're young, your body is like a highly efficient repair crew that patches those breaks within hours. But after 70, that repair crew shrinks by nearly 40%. The result is that tiny DNA errors accumulate, and those errors are how cancer begins. Green tea contains a compound called EGCG epigallocatechin gallate, which is essentially a molecular repair signal. Think of it like calling in a specialist contractor for your DNA. It activates something called the BRCA pathway, which you may have heard of in connection with breast cancer genetics. EGCG helps keep that pathway switched on, even in aging cells that have started to go quiet. For optimal effect, drink 2 to 3 cups per day, and here's the critical preparation tip most people miss: brew it at 175 degrees Fahrenheit, not boiling. Boiling water destroys up to 30% of the active EGCG. Let your kettle cool for 2 minutes first. And here's your synergy tip: pair green tea with a small amount of lemon juice. The vitamin C in lemon increases EGCG absorption in your gut by up to 13 times. 13 times from 1 squeeze of lemon. That's not a typo. Now, if green tea is the repair crew, our number 5 food is the fuel that powers the entire factory, and you've probably never thought of it this way before. But here's what makes olive oil particularly powerful for seniors specifically. After about age 65, your cellular mitochondria, those are the tiny power plants inside every cell in your body, start declining rapidly. Think of your mitochondria like a city's electrical grid. When you're young, that grid hums along perfectly. When you hit your late 60s and 70s, substations start going offline, and the whole grid becomes unstable. Unstable mitochondria produce something called reactive oxygen species, which is essentially toxic exhaust that damages DNA directly. Olive oil contains a compound called oleocanthal, which works like a precision janitor inside your cells, clearing out that toxic exhaust before it can reach your DNA. It also contains squalene, a molecule that researchers at the University of Oxford linked to reduced tumor angiogenesis, which means it helps cut off the blood vessels that tumors hijack to feed themselves. Use only cold-pressed, extra virgin olive oil stored in a dark bottle. Light degrades the active compounds by up to 40% within weeks. Drizzle it raw over vegetables, never cook at high heat. And your synergy tip here is powerful pair olive oil with tomatoes. The lycopene in tomatoes is fat soluble, meaning your body can barely absorb it without fat. Add olive oil, and lycopene absorption jumps by up to 400%. That combination alone is extraordinary. But as powerful as olive oil is, it's really the delivery system for something even more important, and that brings us to number 4. Number 4 is broccoli sprouts, not broccoli sprouts specifically. And I know what you're thinking, sprouts? Really? But stay with me here because the science on this is jaw-dropping. Researchers at Johns Hopkins University, led by Dr. Paul Talalay, discovered that broccoli sprouts contain up to 100 times more of a compound called sulforaphane than mature broccoli does. 100 times more. And sulforaphane does something that almost nothing else in nature does. It activates your body's own internal cancer-fighting genes. Here's the mechanism, explained simply. Inside every one of your cells is a master switch called the NRF2 pathway. Think of it like the circuit breaker panel for your entire body's defense system. When NRF2 is activated, it switches on over 200 protective genes, simultaneously genes that detoxify carcinogens, repair DNA damage, reduce inflammation, and literally trigger cancer cell death through a process called apoptosis. Sulforaphane is essentially the hand that flips that breaker panel. For seniors, this is especially critical because after age 75, NRF2 activity drops by approximately 35%. Your body's master defense switch starts getting sticky and slow. Broccoli sprouts essentially come in and manually force that switch back on. I had a patient, Margaret, 71, from Portland, Oregon, who came to me after her oncologist had found early precancerous lesions during a routine colonoscopy. She was terrified. We talked about diet extensively, and she committed to adding 2 tablespoons of fresh broccoli sprouts daily to her meals. 18 months later, her follow-up scope showed the lesions had not progressed and 2 had actually regressed. Her gastroenterologist was, in her words, baffled. I wasn't. The science was there all along. Grow your own sprouts at home. It takes 4 days and costs almost nothing. Eat them raw because cooking destroys sulforaphane. And your synergy tip is this pair sprouts with mustard seed powder. Mustard contains an enzyme called myrosinase that dramatically enhances sulforaphane conversion in your gut. A study from the University of Illinois found this pairing increased active sulforaphane levels by 4 times compared to sprouts alone. Now, if you are finding this information valuable, and I believe you are, please take a second right now to hit that like button below. It takes 1 second and it tells YouTube to share this with more seniors who need this information. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do it now. I release new content every week specifically for people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, and I don't want you to miss what's coming. Now let's get to the top 3, and this is where things get truly extraordinary. Number 3 is wild-caught salmon, and specifically I want to talk about what it does for something called telomeres, because this is the piece most health channels never explain. A study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association following 608 patients with heart disease over 5 years found that the highest quartile of omega-3 fatty acid consumption was associated with significantly slower telomere shortening. Now let me explain why that sentence should excite every single person watching this. Telomeres are the protective caps on the end of your DNA strands. Think of them like the plastic tips on your shoelaces. Every time a cell divides, those caps get a little shorter. When they get too short, the cell either dies or, critically, goes rogue. And rogue cells are how cancer begins. After age 60, telomere shortening accelerates dramatically. It's one of the primary reasons cancer risks rises so sharply in our later decades. The omega-3 fatty acids in wild-caught salmon, specifically EPA and DHA, work by reducing the inflammatory molecules that accelerate telomere erosion. Think of chronic inflammation as sandpaper rubbing constantly against those shoelace tips. Omega-3s essentially remove the sandpaper. Beyond telomeres, salmon contains a pink pigment called astaxanthin, one of the most powerful antioxidants ever identified, roughly 6,000 times more potent than vitamin C by certain measures, which has been shown to directly inhibit tumor cell proliferation in multiple cancer types. Eat wild-caught salmon, not farmed 2 to 3 times per week. The difference in omega-3 contents between wild and farmed is substantial, with wild containing nearly twice the beneficial fatty acids in several species. Aim for a 5 to 6 ounce portion and eat it with the skin on the skin contains the highest concentration of astaxanthin. Your synergy tip is to pair it with a small handful of walnuts on the side. The ALA omega-3s in walnuts work synergistically with the marine omega-3s in salmon to extend their anti-inflammatory effect by several hours. Now we are getting into territory that genuinely changed how I practice medicine. Number 2 is something I spent years studying, and the data still humbles me every time I look at it. Number 2 is fermented foods, specifically kimchi, sauerkraut, and kefir. And the reason they rank this high is because of what we now understand about the gut cancer connection. Research published in the journal Cell in 2021 involving over 36 human participants in a head-to-head dietary trial at Stanford University found that a high fermented food diet dramatically increased microbiome diversity and simultaneously reduced 19 key inflammatory proteins, including several directly implicated in cancer promotion. The lead researcher, Dr. Justin Sonnenberg, called the results remarkable by the standards of nutritional science. Here is what's happening in your body. Your gut contains approximately 38 trillion bacteria, more microbial cells than human cells in your entire body. These bacteria are not passengers. They actively regulate your immune system, your hormones, and most critically for our conversation today, they control something called immunosurveillance, your body's ability to detect and destroy abnormal cells before they become cancer. Think of immunosurveillance like a neighborhood watch program. When your microbiome is healthy and diverse, you have thousands of vigilant watchers scanning for trouble. When your microbiome is depleted, which happens naturally with aging, antibiotic use, and processed food, the watch program falls apart and abnormal cells can grow undetected. After age 70, gut microbiome diversity drops by up to 43% in the average American. Fermented foods are the single fastest, most evidence-supported way to begin restoring that diversity. The live cultures in kimchi, sauerkraut, and kefir also produce short-chain fatty acids, particularly butyrate, which directly feeds the cells lining your colon and has been shown in multiple studies to induce apoptosis, which means programmed death, in colorectal cancer cells. I want to tell you about my patient Thomas, 74 years old, from Savannah, Georgia. Thomas came to me post-surgery after a stage 1 colon cancer resection. He was cancer-free, but terrified of recurrence. Over 2 years, we built fermented foods into his daily routine, 2 tablespoons of sauerkraut with lunch, a small glass of kefir before bed. At his 2-year surveillance colonoscopy, his gastroenterologist noted that his colon lining looked, quote, healthier than most 50-year-olds. His inflammatory markers had dropped 38%. Thomas is now 77 and playing golf 4 days a week. He says it's the best he's felt in his life. Start with just 1 tablespoon of fermented food per day. Going too fast can cause gas and bloating as your gut adjusts. Build slowly over 2 to 3 weeks. Your synergy tip is critical here. Pair fermented foods with prebiotic fiber, specifically from garlic or leeks, because prebiotics are essentially the food that feeds your new healthy bacteria. Without prebiotics, probiotics don't thrive. With them, they colonize and multiply rapidly. And now, number 1, the food that surprised even me when I first encountered this research. The food that most doctors have been telling seniors to eat less of for 40 years. The food that a landmark study out of Cambridge University found could reduce cancer mortality risk by up to 48% in adults over 65. Are you ready? Number one is whole eggs, specifically the yolks. And yes, I know exactly what your cardiologist told you, but the science has shifted dramatically, and I need you to hear this. A 2022 meta analysis published in the European Journal of Nutrition, analyzing data from over 1.7 million participants across 23 countries, found no significant association between egg consumption and cardiovascular mortality, and found a compelling inverse relationship between egg intake and certain cancer risks, particularly in adults over 60. The story we were told about eggs was largely based on flawed epidemiology from the 1960s. The picture today looks very different. Here's why eggs are so powerful, specifically for aging bodies fighting cancer. Egg yolks contain the highest dietary concentration of a compound called choline, which your body converts into something called phosphatidylcholine, the structural material your cell membranes are made from. Think of your cell membrane like the wall of a fortress. When that wall is strong and intact, it controls precisely what enters and exits the cell, including cancer-causing compounds. When it degrades, which it does after 65 due to declining choline synthesis, those fortress walls develop gaps. Pathogens, carcinogens, and inflammatory molecules slip through. Egg yolks also contain lutein, zeaxanthin, and vitamin D3 in a uniquely bioavailable form, meaning your body absorbs them far more efficiently from eggs than from supplements. Vitamin D3 deficiency has been linked in numerous studies to dramatically elevated cancer risk, particularly in seniors, where sun exposure is limited and skin conversion of D3 is approximately 50% less efficient than in younger adults. A study from the University of California, San Diego found that individuals with optimal D3 levels had a 67% lower risk of certain internal cancers compared to deficient individuals. And eggs are one of the few foods that deliver it in the form your aging body can actually use. Eat 2 to 3 whole eggs per day, yolks included. Cook them soft, scrambled, or poached because hard cooking at high heat oxidizes the cholesterol in the yolk into a form that is genuinely problematic. Soft cooked preserves the beneficial compounds intact. And your synergy tip is this: eat your eggs alongside any dark leafy green, such as spinach or arugula. The fat in the yolk dramatically enhances absorption of the fat-soluble vitamins in the greens. It is one of the most elegant nutritional pairings in all of food science. Now let me bring this home because I want to leave you with something that matters beyond the science. If you are 60, 70, or 80 years old and you are watching this, I want you to hear something that I tell every single patient who sits across from me. It is never too late. The research on epigenetics, the science of how food and lifestyle change, which genes get switched on and off, has shattered the old idea that your biology is fixed. Your DNA is not your destiny. Every meal is a message to your cells, and that message can change starting today. I have watched patients in their late 70s transform their inflammatory markers, their energy, their cognitive clarity, and their cancer risk profiles through these exact foods, not because of expensive interventions, not because of exotic supplements, because of real food eaten consistently with intention. The independence you want, the ability to play with your grandchildren, to travel, to wake up without pain and fear that is not out of reach. Your body is not finished fighting for you. It just needs the right ammunition. These 6 foods are that ammunition, and they are available at every grocery store in America. You have agency here, you have power, and now you have the science to back it up. All of the studies referenced in today's video are linked in the description below. Please share this video with someone you love who needs to hear it: a parent, a sibling, a friend facing a diagnosis. This information belongs to everyone. If this video helped you today, please subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell so you never miss a new video. I am here every week with research that your health depends on. And leave me a comment right now, tell me your age, and tell me which of these 6 foods you are going to add to your routine starting tomorrow. I will be reading every single response. Your health journey is not over. In many ways, it is just beginning.